All right, this is Stephen Williams, founder and president of the creditrepairshop.com, and I ran across this report that was done in 2012, but it's actually still going on now. I haven't been able to find an updated report, but they're talking about what the most common complaints or violations that debt collectors are making when it involves them going after consumers. And I thought it was very interesting because this is the same thing that is still happening to this day, more than 8 years later. When I talk with clients or when people post their comments here on YouTube, they say that they're experiencing this here. So before we get into it, we're going to talk about this stuff here. We're going to talk about the solutions, what you could do for all three of these top violations. And I also want you to like the video and please get notified and please share, post your comments, and subscribe to the channel. And we're going to also go into answering some questions here. I'm going to be making videos a lot quicker because there's a lot of comments or questions from people, and I want to make sure that we stay up on that also. So first of all, according to this article that was written by a bankruptcy company that handled some of this stuff, they said that nearly 40% of all reported FDCPA violations, Fair Debt Collections Practices Act, that's what that stands for, violations are from phone calls, overwhelming amount of phone calls, trying to, number one, get in touch with the person and, either calling friends, family, calling their job, just doing anything and everything to get them on the phone. And the problem is that they were calling people at a time that they're not allowed to call, and that could happen because some of the debt collectors may live in a different time zone or they're based in a different time zone and they didn't pay attention to when they were calling, because what they do is just throw it onto a robocall. They cannot call you before a certain period of time and they can't call you after a certain period of time. Now, the laws may vary in from state to state, but there is a federal standard and then there's a standard that's state to state. For my state, they cannot call you before 8 a.m. and they cannot call you after 8 p.m. Now, it has here that nearly 10% of the claims were related to creditors calling debtors between the hours of 9 p.m. and 8 a.m. Like, how could someone call someone at night and then try to call them early in the morning? But they're not allowed to do that, and this is something that that they need to clamp down on. But what makes it difficult for people to really put the debt collectors into a box is that they don't record the information. And there's two different ways you can record it. There's always several ways you can record it, but the two main ways that you can record it that could prove that they're violating is, number one, is you want to write down the time. Let me get my little pen here. You want to write down the time they called. Get a little sheet of paper, or put it, if everyone has a smartphone, you can go to your calendar and you can maybe mark it on there that they called you at a certain time, and you'll know that that's past the time. Now, another thing is that they'll call you and you've notified them not to call. One of the number one things that we do for all of our clients, and what you should do if you have debt collectors calling you, is to notify them that you want them to cease all collection activities by phone, that you only want to deal with them by mail. You have a right to do that. They have to abide by that, but you need to notify them by phone, and then you note it in your calendar or on a piece of paper, and then you also send them a certified letter stating that you only want them to communicate with you by mail. And that way you have two ways of having a record of it. The first way, you had to depend on them claiming that they did get it, even if the calls are recorded, you never know what they might try to say that the call was not recorded or there was a problem with that call. So the first part is just stop them from calling your number. Stop them from calling your job. Stop them from calling, friends and family. And the way to do that again is to, when you talk to them on the phone, tell them you do not want to discuss this by phone and that you want them to send everything in writing. That's very important too, because when you get ready to do the debt validation on a debt, is that you want to see exactly what they're claiming pertaining to that debt so you can start doing your research. Now, the next one here, that was this one here. Next one here, demands for monetary amounts that are not contractually legal. Nearly 40% of all reported FDCPA violations involve creditors who are trying to collect monetary amounts that were greater than the amount that the debtor actually owed. The only way that you can really find this out is to do the research and get your credit reports, because right at that time when they had to charge off the original creditor, you're going to see the amount that you had owed, that was owed, and then you will be able to look and see if they violated anything with having illegal interest or fees or other expenses that were attached to the debt that is not legal for your area. Again, some of this may come down to what area you're in, what they allow debt collectors to do and not to do, but there is a basis with the federal law, but you should also check with your state laws to see what is legal and what's illegal, because it could be less. They may not be able to charge interest, or may not be able to charge certain fees, or if they've done something that shows that it's excessive, it can make the whole debt just be wiped out to where they're not going to be able to collect. But if you do not have your credit reports, remember, you got to go to my website. I would really appreciate it. It's your3scores.com. I don't know why this is writing like that. Your3scores.com. I'll also have it typed on here. Go there, get your reports, look at, let me just get rid of that because this is confusing there. Get your reports, look at the original amount that from the charge off or the write off period. So from when it was charged off or written off. You want to see that amount, have them break down all of the fees and everything. This is just additional to what's going on with the debt validation. You want to, get all of that information. This is the way that you either build a very good settlement, or you build where you will not have to pay the debt because you'll find something that's illegal. I've even seen that when you start questioning this type of stuff with them, they don't want to risk getting their license revoked to be able to collect in your state, that they will withdraw, because they do not, sometimes they don't know if it was, especially if it was sold from one debt collector to another debt collector, or from a portfolio manager that collects debts, and then they maybe had raised up the amounts on those debts so they can sell the portfolio for a little bit more money. You never know. So when you start asking these types of questions, you'll see that they'll start to withdraw and back out of some of the collections, unless it's something very strong that they have. You'll usually see that they'll try to back out of that collection. The next one is to fail to send the consumer a written notice of the debt. More than 26% of all reported FDCPA violations were related to creditors failing to send debtors a written notice of the debt, which they have to do this. But let me tell you, the catch-22 with this is that all they have to do is send it to the last known address. That's how they get away with that. And then remember, you have 30 days to respond. If you don't do that, and I know a lot of you, if you're here, you've heard of this, but if you don't do if you don't respond, even if it's a debt you know that you do not owe, even if you know that it's a debt that you do not know, you are technically saying, yes, I owe the debt legally. Because then what they will do is that will, when they show that they did try to mail it to you, that allows them to put it on your reports. It allows them to move forward if they want to do a summons, because they've done what is legally required. They've done what is legally required, which is very little to be able to get it on your reports and to be able to get you into the court summons. That's why even when you get a court summons, I know people might get emotional and they think that, they have everything uh, to get that summons to win in court, but they actually don't. And if you look at my other videos, you can see that you can still do a debt validation at that time, and you can start asking these types of questions. And yes, they may choose not to show up to the next hearing, or they may choose to just drop the whole thing. It can happen, but you have to ask the right questions. That's the thing, that you have to ask the right questions. So please do me a favor real quick. Please like the video. It's very important because it helps other people get exposed to this very important information when it comes to debt collections and dealing with debt collectors. It's very important. So I really appreciate it. Everyone that likes the video and people that are watching the video, all of you, this is helping us be able to help more people with this information. There are people out there that just don't know. Okay, now let's move into answering some questions. And again, I will answer the questions directly on YouTube, but I want to answer some questions here just in case it may pertain to you that are watching the video. One here was how or what I need to request for a debt cancellation. You cannot request a debt cancellation. What you can do is you can see if your original creditor did a debt cancellation, or if the credit or the collection agency did a debt cancellation. You will get it in the mail if they did it. Just like you get your W-2 if you work for someone, it will come in the mail by this time. So if you've got a debt cancellation, you would have received it by the beginning of February if you got one. Now they might have sent it to the wrong address. That is possible. And the other way that you would be alerted about it is you would end up getting something from the IRS stating that you did not report income that was reported to them by a debt collector or an original creditor on a 1099-C form. That is one way that a lot of people end up getting it. But now there are ways that you can push an original creditor into doing a debt cancellation, and that's by showing them that there's 100% no way that they will be able to collect the money on that debt. Either by hardship, medical, military, unemployed, Social Security, disability, any of those. You would do a hardship statement to them, and what they would do is they would just forgive the whole entire debt, because they will get 100% of the write-off rather than trying to sell it to a debt collection portfolio buyer where they would get a lower amount, because they're going to technically get what they sold the debt for. Now, I know they have some tricky ways of writing off the debt with their books, but the safest and the easiest way that they do it without having a problem of being audited is to just do a 1099-C total debt forgiveness, and then they're able to write off that total amount. All right, the next one here that we have, someone said that they sent a debt validation letter to a debt collection agency and they responded with all documentation. This is for a medical bill. However, I am being charged $70 more than which the services, and this is what we just talked about in here. This is what we just talked about, where they either it was illegal interest or illegal fees. illegal interest or illegal fees. This video right here that I just made would help you be able to do this. You would write them back and state to them that this is not the correct amount, and you will see that they will back off. What they've tried to do is they've tried to slip that in and try to make a fee, and probably what I've and this is what I've been seeing with a lot of medical companies that collect medical debt, is that they don't actually buy the debt. Most of them don't. They're just hired out by the medical firm or the doctor. And if they're dealing with a hospital, the hospital pays them. They just collect whatever they can collect. But if they're doing it for a doctor that just, it's just he owns his own clinic or something, they may say, well, we'll collect the money, and then they're putting a fee up on top of that, and that's how they're making some extra money. This is not legal. They cannot add that onto there. So what you need to do is write back to them and say that this is an excessive amount. Well, number one, don't even say excessive amount. Tell them that this is not the amount that you owe, and that you need to that they need to review that with the medical provider and get you the appropriate information to show what you owe. Now, let me tell you a little trick that can actually make them not be able to do this. Is that if they and you could have signed to allow them to see your medical history, but if they get that information, they send the bill to you, and if the doctor is some type of specialized doctor, where it's not just a hospital, and it has anything on that statement that shows what type of procedure was done, you can actually send a letter back to them and say that you're in violation. I did not give you any right to know my medical history, and that you would like them to cease and desist all collection activity. And you would also be able to send that to the doctor. But before you send it to the doctor, you need to determine if you're going to be using that doctor's service again. If you are, this is not something that you want to do with them. What you would want to do with them is just to work out the payment directly with the doctor or the hospital. Because if you need the medical care, why would you want to burn that bridge with that doctor or that hospital? All right, the next question here is, how long does a 1099-C process take? I filed it and now I'm waiting. If you filed it, if you got a 1099-C, you filed it with your taxes, so you would know automatically what you're going to be owing or what you're going to be getting back on your refund with the 1099-C added as your additional income. Now, one of the things that I would hope that you made sure that you did is that you also looked at I had a video on how you can be exempt from any fees or any additional income due to your financial situation, hardship situation, or of the time that your situation was when you went through that financial downturn. There's certain things that there would be able to be written off. And for example, say that you owed a credit card company $10,000, but you went through a bad hardship and your financial status has changed. A lot of things have changed. That $10,000 that they reported, you may only have to pay. It could be zero. That where they would consider zero of it to be additional income, or very little, like $500 or $1,000. The next one here was, person learned past Friday that their wages were being garnished, and it's my own fault for not taking action. With Capital One, they said that they need their money, which I agree with that. You do need your money. Let me tell you what you could do to get that stopped, and I will respond to you. What you need to do is you need to still request to get the garnishment worksheet, or you could look at your state, and it's what state are you in? what state it doesn't say what state you're in, but look at your state and make sure that according to your income with any dependents, how much you make every week or 2 weeks or monthly. There's laws in every state on, number one, if you can be garnished, and number two, how much you can be garnished. So yeah, thank you for saying that it was your fault for not taking action, but now let's go ahead and take some action and see what we can do, or what you can do by getting that garnishment stopped. And I have videos here on YouTube that talks about how to get a garnishment stopped. All right, I think that was the last question. We got one more. Summons the court for a credit card, and there's no way that they can pay if I bring tax papers to prove I can't pay. Is there any way the case would be dismissed? No, maybe not in court, but what you can do is you can contact the debt collector that's on the summons. Let them know that there's not going to be a way that you will be able to pay, but you're going to have to go into more detail about why. They're going to wonder why. And if they know from your financial situation that you will not be able to pay, they will back off, and they may continue and go ahead and get the judgment, but they will back off. But also, you need to still, regardless of that, you need to do a debt validation. You need to watch my video, do a debt validation, respond to the summons the way that I tell you to respond to it, and at least let them know that you are looking at fighting this situation. And then, worst case scenario, you also, at the same time, you're notifying them that you will not be able to pay this debt due to your financial situation, and that you're even willing to prove to them that you will not be able to pay this debt. So you'll be having two ways to kind of go after this and have two possible solutions that'll work in your favor. So all right, so we're going to be ending the video here. Again, please like the video, please share it, please subscribe to the channel, post your comments. If you need help, visit thecreditrepairshop.com. If you need your credit reports and scores, everything starts right there. I really do appreciate you that have signed up with the monitoring service. I don't get to see it, but I can see that the numbers are increasing. It's an excellent service, and also you get to get all of that information. It's just like having gas in your car. Having a paid monitoring service is very important because you have the access to the information at your fingertips. Again, like, share, post your comments. I'm going to answer all the questions here on YouTube also directly. And thank you, and have a great day.